so wrong. Lord heaven above, I'm only human.
Welcome to Anime-kun. In this video we will know about Bonnie's arrival and meeting of Calgurio. Spoilers ahead, so watch out. Subscribe the channel for more light novel chapters. So, now let's start the video. Bonnie, born in the United States of America 45 years ago, was just an ordinary student who loved freedom. However, somehow karma came into the world and his talent was discovered by Rudra. He was then taken in by Damrata and taught the methods of fighting. I don't know when I started to get confident and felt that I was the number one strongman in this world and became arrogant. The one who shattered Bonnie's confidence was the woman who served at the side of Emperor Rudra. No, it was the draped, gaudy-looking, scary monster. Even if the heavens and the earth were turned upside down and infinitely reincarnated, it would be an extreme realm that could never be touched. It is impossible to believe that there is such a thing in this world, but it is the bloody truth. Its name, Velgrand, absolutely non-disclosable, one of the Empire's confidential matters. One day, Bonnie, led by Damrata, went to the Emperor's residence. It was a very honorable thing to do, and at the same time fueled Bonnie's ambitions. The freedom-loving Bonnie will never allow an emperor to dominate others at will. So, when you get the chance, you have to do the following, to dream such foolish dreams. The price of stupidity is horror in the extreme. It was there that Bonnie met Velgrand for the first time. Then felt her horror and couldn't help giving in. And at this point, Emperor Rudra, who was behind the imperial curtain, said to Bonnie, "You have this qualification, the qualification is a vessel. Let me lend you my strength, and be more diligent in the future." Emperor Rudra's icy, ruthless voice, as if it had come from a distant place, had become impossible to resist the emperor when he awoke again. "Your Majesty, even if all the millions of elites are wiped out, you won't care. Let's just say that total annihilation is the plan. It is impossible for normal to understand the meaning of the phrase just by hearing it." However, Calgurio understood. "So that's it. As long as an awakened person like me can appear, it doesn't matter if you sacrifice millions of soldiers." Guessing the answer based on these instructions alone surprised Bonnie somewhat. However, upon hearing him say, "an awakened one like me," Bonnie reacted. "Yeah, so you've awakened too. Then I think you understand. You're right, the Emperor's purpose is to collect the pieces of the awakening. For that purpose, even if it caused millions of sacrifices, he thought it was worth it. That's a fact that even senior officers don't know. From the very beginning, Emperor Rudra had no expectations of the army. The most important thing is only how to collect talents with awakening credentials. That is, more about quality than quantity. So, then, the failed crusade against Veldora 300 years ago was too. Minute asked with a sharp stare at Bonnie. In response, Bonnie replied lightly, "I don't know what happened then. But doesn't it make sense just to think about it? If it were me, one person could kill you all. No, it turns out it could be done. The gap in strength is just so obvious. So that's why we say our defeat was planned, is that it? A strategy premised on sacrifice. As much as I want to praise His Majesty, this time it's really been a total loss. That's how it is. To lose so badly after awakening, even His Majesty didn't expect it." Minute nodded understandingly. Hearing this, Calgurio had a bitter face. "Alas, it's my fault for not being useful," he whispered to himself. However, Bonnie dismissed him. "Don't worry. It's not that you're not useful, it's just that the opponent is too strong." "Right. That's simply not something we can beat." Ju nodded in agreement. The duo also lost to Diablo, who knocked out Calgurio. There wasn't even a monster they could beat, so in their opinion, it was not surprising that Calgurio couldn't win. That is to say, the strength of the battle here exceeds the intelligence agency's expectations. It should be. Plans to use this place's demon lord, Rimuru, as a stepping stone to add pawns were thwarted by misjudging the opponent's battle strength. Bonnie laughed bitterly. After paying many sacrifices without any reward, it was impossible to laugh, but in his heart, Bonnie still wanted to say to the Emperor that he deserved it. "So, Bonnie-kun, since the plan to use us as bait and have you carry out the surprise attack has also failed, what are your plans for the future?" "Huh, I told you so. I'll take the responsibility." "What do you mean by that?" Minute asked calmly. There was silence in the tent as everyone waited for Bonnie's answer. "One thing I have to make clear, as I said earlier, is that you are dead. This is not a metaphor, but as far as His Majesty the Emperor is concerned, you are dead. Are you suggesting that keeping us alive is more troublesome for His Majesty? It's a bit of a language problem. My point is that His Majesty does not need the kind of general whose power is taken away, causing the possibility of awakening to be reduced to zero. To be of no value to His Majesty means that there is no reason to continue protecting you. Well, that's what it's all about. Considering this premise, the possibility of not accepting the return of prisoners is high. No, it's more than that. If the surviving soldiers return home, anti-war sentiment will spread, and do you think this is in line with His Majesty's thoughts? I don't think so. After saying that, Minute sighed deeply. He understood what Bonnie was trying to say. That is to say, what is optional for His Majesty is in the way for the intelligence service. Right. Will he wipe out those who intend to return? For sure. Then throw the pot at the Jura Tempest Federation as a way to stir up the anger and vengeance of the nation. Bonnie was convinced that the intelligence service would act in this way and explain it to the crowd. That's 700,000. How could it be done? Those who have undergone transformative surgery have not lost their strength to that point. But if you fight back, it's a fight against yourself. Minute gestured for the restless officers to quiet down. Do you have an idea of who can make this happen? While many thought it was simply impossible, Minute was calm. Thinking of his own awakening, Calgurio remained silent. He believes that if one does have that kind of power, it is not impossible to do it. If it's in single digits, can you do it? It would be possible if we just said we could do it, but that's just paper. Superb individual strength for the offense but not for the defense. If one relies on man tactics, there will be loopholes that can't be held no matter what. Likewise, it is not appropriate to track escaped enemies. If people spread out and run away, there will always be fish in the net. And this time, it takes one person to wipe it all out. Bonnie really couldn't think of anyone who could do such a thing. However, all but one, I don't think anyone can do that, from a common sense point of view, can they? But yeah, there really is. In the Empire, there are monsters that can turn this assumption into reality. That figure surfaced in front of Bonnie's eyes, his body trembling with fear. The beauty and horror of that can only be experienced by those who have seen it with their own eyes. And Bonnie, who knew this well, felt a little unfortunate. Is it a single-digit existence that you're also afraid of? It looks like I've got something wrong. Minute leaned deeply into his chair and sighed with his head back. Me too. I joined the army and dreamed of letting the Empire dominate the world. But, however, this was all decided long ago in a place that had absolutely nothing to do with the military. In the power game of proliferation by who knows who, there is no room for non-awakened people to show up from the start. That's silly. Ah, I feel silly as a clown. Calgurio and Minute looked at each other sobbingly. It wasn't just the Calgurio, the officers present, all sighed as if they had awakened from a dream. How sad, Bonnie thought. I don't know if the truth would be happier, but then they wouldn't accept it, would they? So Bonnie, coldly, said something rather unreasonable. Now you understand. Do you understand the situation? Even if you go back, all that awaits you is despair. So just stay here and be a prisoner and wait for the war to be over. What are you going to do about it, Sir Bonnie? I'm going back to the Empire. There shouldn't be a truce like that. I think His Majesty Rimuru would want to deal with the Empire. By then, a guide must be needed, right? And the person who acts as a guide, presumably, will be wiped out. Bonnie, who has lost his power now, will no doubt be assassinated. Sensing Bonnie's awakening, everyone fell silent. Then, everyone was deeply aware that their fate had been entrusted to the demon Lord Rimuru. That's it for this video. Subscribe the channel for more light novel chapters. Meet you on next video.